Sorry. Call the meeting to order for the Willmar City Council for Monday, May 7th. Roll call.
Substituting tonight is Ike Holland because we have a clerk who has lost her voice. Mayor Calvin.
Here.
Councilmember Nelson.
Aye.
Christensen.
Here.
Swantis.
Here.
Alvarado.
Here.
Osmus.
Here.
Muskie.
Here.
Plowman. Fagerly.
Here.
8 present, 1 absent.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? The thing I have is the revision of the work session process and then the position of Adult Enrichment Community Center Supervisor. Is there anything else the council wishes to, Councilmember Mesky?
The city administrator review for information.
City administrative review process?
Yep.
Anything else? Okay, we will move those to the end of the agenda, those 3 items. Consent items. Mr. Holland.
Mayor, do we have a motion to approve the agenda or as amended?
Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Discussion? Motion is made and seconded to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That motion does carry. Consent items?
Mayor and council, the consent items are to be approved are the city council meeting minutes of April 16th, 2018, the Willmar Municipal Utilities Board minutes of April 23rd, 2018, the Planning Commission minutes of April 18, 2018, the Human Rights Commission minutes of March 20th, 2018, the Willmar Lakes Area CVB Board minutes of March of 20th, 2018, the monthly building report for April 2018, and last, the accounts payable through May 2nd, 2018.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Nelson,
Aye.
Christensen,
Aye.
Swantis,
Aye.
Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Muskie,
Aye.
Plowman, Fagerly.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
7 ayes, 0 nays. That motion does pass. I'd like to welcome Troop 565 here tonight. The sponsor for Troop 565 is the VFW, and they meet over at Redeemer. And I understand you guys are working on your communication merit badge this evening. And so the members that we have are Dylan Larson, Wyatt Larson, David Rees, Colton Dolan, Bryson Kimpling, and the Scoutmasters are Lee, Bruce, and John. So thank you all for being here. You guys can stick around as long as you want, and you can exit at whichever point you feel most comfortable. So hopefully you'll enjoy the process this evening. And if there's anything that we can do to help you out from here on out, certainly let us know. And go for your Eagle Scout. That's a good deal. So glad you're with us today. Next, we have the first public hearing, which is to rezone from R3 low-density multifamily residential to general business. Threw you for a loop there, didn't I?
You did. It's not the first time. Mayor Kelvin, members of the council, the hearing tonight is to consider the rezoning of property owned by Legacy Group Development. They're the company that's developing the project on First Street between Minnesota and Monongalia Avenues. As part of the second phase of their project, they purchased 2 additional properties in the southwest corner of that block, and those lots were currently zoned R3, and they wish to have them rezoned to a general business classification to be consistent with the rest of the site. The Planning Commission conducted a public hearing on this matter last month. They actually held 2 meetings to consider it, as there were some questions, and they ultimately approved the request as presented, as it is consistent with the comprehensive plan. It's the recommendation of staff that the council adopt the ordinance, assign it a number, and publish it.
This is a public hearing. Is there anybody from the public that wishes to speak? Seeing and hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and move it to the council table. Council?
Move to approve. Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve rezoning from R3 low-density multifamily residential to general business. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Christensen,
I'm going to abstain.
Councilmember Swantis,
Aye.
Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Meske,
Aye.
Fagerly,
Aye.
and Nelson.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
6 ayes, 1 abstention.
Yeah, 6 ayes,
0
1
nays.
abstention.
That resolution does pass. Mr. Scott, we're okay with that, with only that number on the resolution? We're okay with that? With 6? Voting affirmative?
Yes.
Okay. Next, we have introduction of an ordinance to rezone land from limited business to R2, 1 and 2 family residential. Mr. Peterson.
Mayor Kelvin, members of the council, a couple have purchased the property northeast of Super America. It used to be used as a residence. It was sold and at one time used as a reading therapy center. At that time, the zoning was changed from R2 to limited business. This couple that is purchasing the property on a contingency would like to have it rezoned back to R2. The Planning Commission held a hearing and recommended that the zoning amendment take place. It's a recommendation of staff that the ordinance be introduced and a public hearing be held on May 21st.
So move.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to rezone certain lands from limited business to R2. By motion, set a public hearing for May 21st at 7:01 p.m. Discussion. Councilmember Alvarado.
So what I'm understanding, it used to be the reading therapy place?
Yes.
It's a big brownstone or?
Yep.
Okay.
Large brick house.
And now it's going to be a residence?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's the one I was trying to email you and I didn't include that.
Okay. It's a very nice home, actually.
It looks very nice. Thank you.
Additional discussion. Roll call. I'm sorry. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That motion does carry. Next is introduction of text amendment to the zoning ordinance relating to Central Business District. I'll open up that public hearing. Mr. Peterson.
Okay, this is just an introduction again of an ordinance. So the Planning Commission has been considering requests from a number of property owners that own property in a central business district that would like to have the option of converting some older multi-story structures into multifamily residential properties. The currently multifamily dwellings are allowed in the central business district, but only as a use secondary to the business. The Planning Commission conducted a public hearing on the text amendment on May 2nd, and following that hearing, submitted a recommendation to the council that the ordinance that would allow multifamily structures as a principal use be introduced for a public hearing at the May 21st, 2018 City Council meeting. There are a couple of issues to consider with this, and that in the Central Business District, typically uses are not required to provide off-street parking. And by making these types of uses, conditional uses, are allowable only by conditional use permit and public hearing in front of the Planning Commission, the Planning Commission will have oversight to make sure that there is adequate parking for these types of uses, and that should eliminate pretty much any of the concerns that would exist. I think it's a great idea to try to increase the mass of people downtown, to increase the activity levels and basically create activity for more additional uses and services in the downtown. So I would offer to the council the ordinance, or the staff recommendation that the ordinance be introduced for a hearing on May 21st.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve a public hearing for May 21st to rezone the ordinance relating to Central Business District in the downtown area. Discussion. Councilmember Alvarado.
Mrs. Peterson, would you just review for the public what the parameters are for the Central Business District, what the footprint is?
Okay, in the Central Business District, there are virtually no setback requirements. Buildings can typically be built property line to property line. There were some design standards implemented a couple years back that do require setbacks and screening for new parking and for different types of uses. But the whole purpose of the Central Business District is to create dense, active, very intense development.
Okay, thank you.
So we have a motion to approve the text change for the ordinance relating to Central Business District.
Hearing.
Additional discussion.
Hearing.
I'm setting the hearing. Councilmember Meske.
This would be the entire building is dedicated to housing then?
Yes.
Okay.
All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That motion does carry. Thank you, Bruce. Next, we'll have the City Council open forum. Leila Ismail. You have 3 minutes, and state if you live within the city or out of the city. And then the council will not respond back to you. If there's information that we have to get back to you, either staff will do that or a council member will do so.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
My name is Leila Ismail. I used to be a radio journalist in Somalia, but fled there 11 years ago due to separation of freedom of speech. When I moved to the USA, I had other important issues to deal with, so I put aside my journalism career. However, last month, I started broadcasting Somali show through Rock 8 channel here in Willmar. Thanks Rudy of Channel 8 coordinator for your help. He was there for me anytime I need to record my show. Also, I wanted to thank Darlene for encouraging me and connecting me to the others. Willmar area has been welcoming a place for a lot of Somalis. However, there is a lack of information gap due to the language barrier. I hope my show will help a lot of Somali people and all the community in Willmar who don't speak English learn about issues and the American way of life. So I welcome any support the councillors can give. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I've had the opportunity to watch both of your shows, so thank you. Next, we have John Knold. Again, you'll have 3 minutes.
What's that?
You'll have 3 minutes.
Yep. My name's John Konold, citizen Willmar. My address is 1700 Hanson Drive, Southwest, Ward 2. I come to you tonight with a proposal about the city of Willmar to run a local sales tax for the citizens of Willmar and bring it to a vote this fall. Our group, with Matt, Tony, and I, started back in February meeting to discuss possible improvements to the Civic Center grounds. That was spurred on by the consultant, the city hiring a consulting group, 292 Design, to look at the Civic Center grounds and what improvements can be made for the future of that land. That is when Matt, Tony, and I submitted our feedback to the consultants at the public forum meetings. After many meetings and conversations with various groups, we hope the council will have an open mind to to what the consultants recommend regarding the expansion of the facilities. Our feedback to the consultants was not any duplicate of any facilities or programs that are already available to the public through the YMCA, school district, and private businesses. We want this to be a city-run project that offers both programming through the community and rec and makes available options that do not currently exist in Willmar. What a better way to bring people together than a centralized location of facilities that would benefit the community. The Civic Center facilities and our parks are an important piece of the overall needs of the city. We are excited and passionate about the possibility of working on such a project that would benefit our entire community. When the time comes, we would like to work on the committees, recruit people, and coordinate with staff and council monthly if these projects are moving forward and funding is also moving forward. The Civic Center was built in 1980 and was intended to be added on into the future. The Civic Center area would be a perfect location for the new Willmar Civic Rec Center, close to the golf course, high school, Midwest campus, and Robbins Island. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight and for all you do for the community. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we have Matt Dawson. Let us know if you live within the city or outside of the city.
Matt Dawson, 1010 Meadow Lane. In August of 2016, I woke up to 6 inches of water in my basement. Even though we had spent $5,000 on a waterproofing system, it just was not enough. I took 2 days off of work, spent 4 weekends hauling items from my basement to the garage and then out to the landfill. The feedback I have received on our stormwater situation is when it was built, it was fine at the time, but as they did not expect the growth in the city of Willmar. To upgrade our infrastructure in our community and paying for this through property taxes, I feel is not enough. And every year we get farther and farther behind. I and many others believe every year we do not have a local sales tax. We as citizens will actually be paying more in property taxes. Do the people that voted against the sales tax last time understand that a lot of these projects actually are going on to our property taxes? Do people understand that the basic needs of gas, food, clothing are not subject to sales tax? And if you spend $100, it's actually 5 cents extra to contribute. When my wife and my 2 daughters come back from girls' hockey tournaments in New Ulm and Marshall, I get the nice little IRS form that states that I actually contributed money to their facilities in New Ulm and Marshall. When I volunteered to actually organize 4 youth hockey tournaments in Willmar for 6 years in a row, we bring in hundreds of families and people in our community, but we don't collect any dollars, nothing to go towards our facilities or our parks or infrastructure. I think about the thousands of dollars every year that the city of Willmar is not collecting, just like this weekend with the governor's fishing opener. 50% of the revenue or more, from what we've been told and read, comes from actually people dollars collecting outside of the city of Willmar. I'm as fiscally conservative as anyone in this room, but if the plan is to fund all this infrastructure, parks and facilities in Willmar through property taxes, my opinion, along with many others, is this is going to cost the business owners and the property tax owners a lot more money down the road versus just putting another half-cent sales tax on. I also understand wholesalers, retailers, and contractors won't be excited about funding another 0.5%, but what we will pay in the long run, in my opinion, will cost all of us a lot more. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your service to the Willmar community.
Thank you for your comments. Next, Anthony Almond. Let us know if you live within the city or outside of the city.
Thank you. Hi, Anthony Ammon, 820 Richland Avenue, live in the city. What we're proposing is a 20-year local option sales tax, 0.5%, that we think will raise $40 or $50 million. We would like to break that down into 3 different categories. The first being infrastructure, which would consist of wastewater improvement and roads for the city. That would be $25 million, 50% of that local option sales tax revenue generated. The second would be the Civic Center and the grounds update that John Konold spoke of. We feel that that's going to meet the recreational needs of all our citizens and all age groups and centralize it, and specifically bring back like the children's playground that we lost at the city auditorium, but, the consultant, the 292 group, we're waiting to see what their final recommendations are for that. The third piece of the local option sales tax would be the parks, specifically Robbins Island improvement and the Swanson Field improvement. We feel that this would be an excellent way to enhance our city. Personally, as a citizen of Willmar and also as a business owner, these are all critically important upgrades and enhancements to our city to retain current residents and recruit future residents and employees to our city. This addresses necessary upgrades for the city of Willmar and its citizens. We have to remember that we are competing with regional centers such as Alexandria, St. Cloud, Mankato, Owatonna, Marshall, New Ulm. We need to be competitive. We need to recruit people, and they need to say, Willmar is the place that we want to live and raise our family. I'm asking you to grant our group time at your next work session to further present our information that we have gathered and allow the local option sales tax to be placed on the November ballot. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. That is all that I had signed up for the open forum. Next, we have Sean Christensen to declare costs and be assessed and call for the assessment hearing for the 2018 street improvements.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Tonight is the night that we do every year where we have received the bids for the improvement projects, for the 2018 improvement projects, and I'm asking to declare the costs to be assessed for the preparation of the assessment roll and call for the assessment hearing for the following projects: 1801A, 1801B, and 1803A for reconstruction, and 1803B for street overlay. The financial impact, of course, are the assessments, which is why we're having the conversation tonight. Local funds, bond proceeds, MnDOT, wastewater treatment funds, and state aid and MUC. The per chapter 429 of the state statutes requires this meeting, and affected property owners must be notified of their assessments, and that I am proposing June 4th date of the public hearing.
Mr. Mayor, I would move staff's recommendation to declare costs to be assessed, order preparation of the assessment roll, and call for the assessment hearing, which would be on June 4, 2018, for city projects number 1801A, 1801B, 1803A, and 1803B.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve and declare costs associated to be assessed and call for the assessment hearing. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Swantis.
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
Asmus.
Aye.
Muskie.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays.
That resolution passes. Next is consideration of bids to award contracts for 3 lift stations and approve their budgets. Mr. Christensen.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, thought I was done.
Did you think that assessment hearing went pretty quick?
Yeah, too quick. It caught me off guard there, so that's all right. I'll look forward to it in a month. The next item agenda is for the lift station project, consideration of the bids. We, as you may know, we bid 3 different lift stations this year. We held over the Fairgrounds lift station from last year due to trying to coordinate that with the 9th and Park Street projects. So we have bid all 3 projects. The recommendation would be to award the contract to Lametti and Sons in the amount of $1,441,950 for the 3 lift station projects. And to adopt the combined project budget for project numbers 1610 and 1810.
Mr. Mayor, I would move staff's recommendation, which is to award the contract to Lametti and Sons in the amount of $1,441,950 for said project 1610 and 1810, and to adopt the combined project budget for project number 1610 and 1810.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to award the projects to Lamente and Sons in the amount of $1,441,950. Discussion. Mr. Christensen, have we worked with these people before?
Yes, they've been a contractor around on a number of projects.
Thank you. Roll call.
Councilmember Alvarado.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Meske.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Swantis.
Aye.
7 yeses, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Next is the Armory Fairgrounds and Gorton Avenue Lift Station as bid budget total of $1,894,861. Mr. Christensen.
I think that's what we just did, Mr.
Yeah,
Mayor.
the next one.
Yep.
Railroad crossing.
It says on my list that we have 2 resolutions we have to approve.
I think it was brought into one.
We did it in one.
We rolled it into one.
My intent was to do it in one. We can discuss that as well if you would prefer.
No, the council is telling me we've already done it, so.
Okay.
Next is consider a cooperative construction agreement with Candido County for 7th Street Northwest Rail Crossing improvements. Mr. Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As promised a couple meetings ago, we discussed the 7th Street Railroad Crossing, which is also County Road 41. And so the contract that I showed you at the time was just to give you the intent that the project would be done. The contract is between BNSF and the county, and what you see tonight is the agreement between the county and the city for a not-to-exceed amount of $100,000 total that will be split between the county and the city for the final cost of not-to-exceed $50,000 from the city funds in order to improve the 7th Street Railroad Crossing.
Mr. Mayor, I move staff's recommendation to approve the cooperative construction agreement with Candido County in the amount not to exceed $50,000 for the 7th Street Northwest Railroad Crossing improvements.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the cooperative construction agreement with Candido County in the amount not to exceed $50,000 for 7th Street Northwest Railroad Crossing improvements. Discussion. Councilmember Meske and followed by Fagerly.
After this, if this is approved, when will this start?
Councilmember Meske, my understanding is the concrete planks that the railroad will be placing are either on site or very close, so could start very soon.
Good, okay.
The county I think the county either has recently approved or will be approving the agreement with BNSF, and so I would anticipate it starting this month.
Perfect, that's a very unsafe place right now.
It's dangerous. Councilmember Fagerly, followed by Alvarado.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The railroad crew will be doing the work then, right?
Councilmember Fagerly, the railroad crew will do the work at the tracks. It's the city and county's responsibility to do the paving up to and from the concrete planks that will be the driving surface.
Okay. And then when did we redo, was it 10th Street? Is that 5 years ago or?
It was at least 5. I've been here 4, so I've not seen it.
I remember a lady got her stroller stuck. Couldn't get out, had to call her husband to wedge it out.
That was before I was here, so I would say at least 5 years.
Okay, thanks.
Councilmember Alvarado.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Christensen. How long will this process take once it starts normally?
You know, I haven't seen the exact documents because that would be in the agreement with the county and BNSF, but it's a short section of street. I can't imagine, I can tell you the railroad will not want their tracks to be closed very long, and so my guess is it would be no more than a couple weeks.
Thank you.
Councilmember Swantis.
I just want to thank you for moving this along quickly. I am sure that anyone who lives, works, and goes to school at Ridgewater, anyone who travels north on that street appreciates this greatly, and I'm guessing people are cheering in their living rooms. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Mm-hmm. Okay, to approve the agreement, not to exceed $50,000. Roll call.
Councilmember Meske.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Swantis.
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
7 yeses, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Next is consideration of removing the requirement for the Committee and Rec Board review of liquor licenses for special events on city property. Mr. Scott, our city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council, and actually, if I could back up for one moment, I apologize. There were two motions needed in the previous agenda item, and as I heard the motion made by Councilmember Christensen, that was to award the contracts. So I think you need a separate resolution to set the project budget. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, that's correct. So so moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to adopt the project budget in an amount of $1,894,861. Discussion. Roll call.
Is that the correct amount?
That's the amount I have, correct?
Councilmember Figurley,
Aye.
Nelson,
I'm just seeking clarification on what we're voting on.
It's for the lift station.
Are we still in the lift station, or is this the, is the lift station one?
the 1.8 million.
Right.
Yeah.
The bid was for 1.44 million. The resolution includes engineering, and so it will be more than the bid was. So the
$1,894,861.
correct.
And that was what was introduced and seconded. No discussion. We're on roll call. Roll call. Continue.
To continue, Councilmember Nelson,
Aye.
Christensen,
Aye.
Swantis,
Aye.
Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
and Muskie.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
And that resolution passes as well. Thank you for asking clarifying questions. If we don't know what we're voting on, we need to know what we're voting on. So thank you for asking that question. Next is consideration of removing requirement of Community Ed and Rec Board review of liquor licenses for special events on city properties. Mr. Scott, our city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Before you in your packet is an ordinance that removes a requirement that exists in your city code right now for the Community Education and Recreation Department, actually as it's termed in the ordinance, the Park and Rec Board, to review any liquor licenses that are going to be issued for events to be held in the Civic Center. This is something that came forward. It was discussed in the April 30th work session. It's coming to you on the recommendation, I think, on the request of the Community Ed and Rec Board, who wishes not to continue fulfilling that function under the ordinance. The recommendation for the council is to introduce the ordinance for a public hearing on May 21st, 2018. And then I have a second item for you to consider after that motion.
I would like to introduce an ordinance removing the requirement that the CER board approve Civic Center Arena event liquor license and set a public hearing on the ordinance for May 21st, 2018.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Mr. Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. The second item for your consideration is, I guess, just to be aware that in addition to reviewing license applications for liquor licenses for events at the Civic Center, the Community Ed and Rec Board has been fulfilling that same function for liquor licenses to be issued for events on any city property. That does not appear to have any basis in ordinance for that requirement. There's nothing that we can locate that would require CER to continue performing that function for licenses on other city property. My understanding is, given that, the Community Ed and Rec Board will simply excuse itself from continuing that practice. The City Council does have the option, if it so chooses, to adopt a resolution, either endorsing that approach or requesting that it do something different. So at this point, I would turn it to the council for discussion on whether the council feels any resolution is necessary. And if so, it will be drafted and presented to you for approval on May 21st.
Okay. So basically what happens now is that Community Ed and Rec approves any liquor license within the community that's going to be held. So other than the ones that are selling liquor at their establishments. So do we want the city attorney to draft that resolution? Seems to be consistent.
That makes sense,
To just-
yes.
Seems to be consistent.
Yeah.
To discontinue it, correct.
Do you want a motion for that? Or-
Nope, I will draft it and have it ready for you to consider on May 21st.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have work session discussion. Mr. Scott.
Thank you again, Mayor, members of the council. In the work session preceding this meeting, and in the work session on April 30th, the city council had extensive discussion on whether it wanted to make any changes to its work session format. And I think the consensus from the work session before this meeting was that it did wish to make several changes to the existing work session format. Those would be to change the meeting times for work sessions from 5:15 to 5 p.m. For months that do not already have fifth Mondays and regularly scheduled work sessions on those fifth Mondays, to conduct a third work session in addition to the 2 regular council meeting nights on a day of the week and the third week of the month to be determined after the council is consulted on scheduling. And in addition, to move the public comment portion of work sessions to the 4th item on the agenda. If I have accurately stated the council's wishes, my recommendation would be that you move to approve the resolution that was before you with some additional changes to the work session, to reinstate the committee chairpersons for the 4 subject matters that were addressed by the previous subcommittee structure, those being Public Works, Public Safety, Finance, Community Development, and Labor Relations. And approve the resolution. Those changes that I've just described will be made and presented to the mayor and city administrator for execution.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the hybrid work session format. Discussion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Next is the position at the community center, which is the Adult Enrichment Community Center Supervisor. Councilmember Osmus.
I would like to make a motion to start the process going forward to hire someone for that position. When I say start the process, I believe there is still some input that needs to happen about the job description and the job duties for that position, but I do think that we need to start moving forward for the HR director to start looking at getting that position filled.
Okay. Would you like to make that motion?
Narrow that down. Yes, I'd like to make a motion to have the HR person start working on the job description and duties to hire that position for the community center.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to have staff work on approving the position out at the community center. Discussion. Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you. Darlene Schroeder was here earlier, and I think she shared an email with several of you, and there are several comments in here that the Community Center Advisory Board had made some requests into this job description that they would appreciate being included in this discussion with that has not taken place yet. I made a motion a couple of meetings ago to hold on this position until the structure and who this position would report to would be laid out, so that if there were any other questions about the percentage of the employee, if this is full-time, I think that's something else that the Community Advisory Board has questions on, whether this is, and if we're going to enter into some arrangement with Lutheran Social Service, does this change this employee's ability to be engaged in adult enrichment? Will it be a city employee completely? So I support us doing a few more revisions on the job description, but I'm asking that the Community Ed and Rec Advisory Board be included in the review of this before it's completed.
So is that an amendment or?
Well, I
believe her motion is that the details get worked out. But there's still some things that need to be worked out. So she was directing, what I heard of the motion, she's directing our HR director to bring the process, then my understanding it would come back to us one more time. Was that your thought?
Yes, after they had had a chance to, because I brought up earlier about Lutheran Social Services, whether they could finalize some of those into the job description, because that wasn't in the present one, because that was also a financial consideration into the salary for that person.
Okay.
Councilmember Nelson.
Councilmember Osmus serves on this board, and I would hope that we would respect the board's input into this process. I will make an amendment if we think that we need that in order for this to happen, but I'm okay with it as long as we agree to incorporating some of that. So
I believe that's the direction that's being given, correct?
I would
Ms.
think.
Beckman, is there anything else that you need for direction from the council, or do you understand what we're asking?
Yeah, I think I understand. I'll work with, Darlene did give me the copy of everything here, so yeah, we can work with Liz and Mr. Brizendine as well and finalize this.
Okay, you okay with that?
Yes, that was the I thought she would take that information from that Darlene had submitted to look at the job description to see what should or shouldn't stay.
Okay, okay. Mr. Holland, you're okay with all of that? You understand where we're at?
No, I'm not. I don't understand who needs to provide input. I'm still unclear. Who would you like to have provide input before we make the final decision?
I believe that Ms. Beckman has the document to be reviewed and then incorporate as would be appropriate, and then getting back with Councilmember Osmus to make sure that the Community Center Advisory Board is briefed. I understand we're not going to have the tail wag the dog here. I mean, we're not going to have them hire the people, but, you know, Mr. Brizendine previously had said that, you know, at one of our meetings that, you know, you don't have a community group write your job descriptions. We're not trained in that. And, you know, that's not what we're saying to do. What we're just saying is to make sure we consider these things, these options.
And I agree with that, and I have no problem with that. We've reviewed her previous statements. She sent us, or at least me, you know, previous comments.
She sent us more.
Okay, that's fine. I thought that Councilmember Nelson also wanted the CER Advisory Board to provide input.
I'm talking about the Community Center.
The Community Center. That's what I wanted clarification on. Okay, that's fine. So we will incorporate that, and then we'll come back at the next meeting with a revised position description before we start advertising on the 21st. Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Additional discussion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Next is an update on our city administrator evaluation. And I would like to just say that our city administrator has been with us for a year. I think we're getting very close to that, or we may have actually passed it. So thank you for the service that you've given to us. But we're supposed to do an evaluation at 1 year, and we'll get after it. So, Mr. Maskey.
Yes, we were moving towards how we were going to operate and the process we were going to employ to do the city administrative review. A few meetings ago, I was asked if I would sit down with Ms. Beckman, and I did, and we talked about the forms that were used last time. I went and we reviewed the 6-month review, and we looked at those surveys. We also took the comments that were made by council members at that time. We had talked a little bit about a 360 review of having department heads and other folks do reviews of the city administrator as well as having the city administrator do also a self-review. Those forms after we had sat down, we sent those out to all the council. You should have all received those. There was a period where you could respond. And after those responses were taken, and there weren't very many of them, we finalized those forms, and those forms were then sent out to department heads to fill out, and the city administrator filled them out. It would be my recommendation, if you will, that we then go in our own process to fill those forms out and maybe go into a closed session for that review on the 21st of this month. How you wish to proceed, of course, is a council decision, but that would be my recommendation. I think that those forms, as they have been revised, are much more useful. There are some questions on there about goal setting, which was something that we were struggling with the last time, but there's a directed question that says, let's set some goals, and all the other same questions are there. Some of the questions where there was a lack of responses or unknown by the council, a lot of those were questions as they relate to interactions and communication with department heads, so it made sense to bring them in with that 360 review so you can count on those forms or those questions to answer those questions for you.
Councilman Alvarado.
Thank you, Mr. Muskie. I was just going to ask you, so do we review what the department heads are saying, or do we do our own and then review them all together? I'm not quite understanding.
Well, the last time we did our own review.
Correct.
And as we sat around, we said, how are we supposed to know what's necessarily going on here? It would be much more useful to have those replies. So I think they would be just included in that process. I'm thinking you, and all of us as council members, need to fill out that form and have us sit down like we did last time. And if we have those questions about some of those other pieces, those can be brought into that as well.
Okay, so
that's how I envision that process working.
Those would be fed in at the time of our meeting, our closed meeting.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Nelson.
Just a question on the tallying of process. Will we be using Robert Scott to do that as we functioned before with that, or how will we do that?
Robert Scott did not tally them last time. I did.
Okay.
Would I be willing to do that again? I don't know. That's not part of the process that we've ironed that out. I would say the HR director is capable of doing that, but it's up to the council. I certainly can tabulate 8 or 9 surveys, but it just seems like this HR director, maybe that's part of their position, but I know we've had conversations about that before. So that's just one council person's opinion.
Right. I mean, we have an HR director. I mean, if we're not going to use an HR director, I mean, that's what we hired the person for. I mean, why wouldn't we have the person tabulate the scores? It's simple math.
I will speak against it every time we choose to do that. She reports to the person we're doing the evaluation on. I think that's an awkward position to put our HR director in. And I would request that we use either have Councilmember Meske do it or have our city attorney participate in it, so we do not expose the HR person to that.
Additional discussion. Councilmember
I have to agree with Councilperson Nelson. I believe that just because of the chain of command relationship, I don't think it's fair to the HR director to be in that position. I think to be evaluating up, then taking that information, I don't think it's a good idea. I agree with Councilperson Nelson on this.
Additional discussion. Councilmember Swantis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This happens in many organizations. That is what the role of the HR director is. They're a confidential employee. They are. That's a part of the position is you hold information confidentially, and I think that makes sense to have that done.
And I will just say that I did talk to Ms. Beckman about that, and she is more than happy to do whatever the council wishes. Councilmember Meske.
The HR director is not evaluating the city administrator. They are simply tabulating our evaluations. Our evaluations are attached to it. And to be quite honest, when we formulated the new form and looked at where the complaints were, where we wanted to improve it, we looked at the previous one as well. Full disclosure, we looked at the previous one to see which numbers were where and what questions should be changed. That file may even be in their office. That's their job. It's the appropriate place for it.
One more.
Are we going to go into a big discussion again about how we evaluate our administrator? Holy buckets, folks. I mean, this is elementary process. Do you realize what you look like having this discussion? I mean, come on. Councilmember Nelson, followed by Christensen.
It is a fundamental, just a fundamental issue for me. And I think Councilmember Christensen said also, this is our job. This is the council's job. And I would like to respect that, and I think we got some of that same advice from our city attorney the last time, so.
Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we need another page on our menus for each meeting, and that would be the organizational chart. Does our HR person work for the council, or does our HR person work for the administrator?
Can we add that to the packet?
I don't have it in front of me.
Can we add that to the packet?
I think he's being facetious.
No, I don't think he is.
I don't think so.
He's not being facetious.
Sorry.
Okay, so we have a direction. Would we like to vote on this tonight, or would we like to hold it over and have another conversation about it? Are we ready to go?
I'll be more than happy to tabulate the surveys again, if that is what it would take to get the process done. That is our job. It's no different than where we were at the 6-month review.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to have Councilmember Meske tabulate the results after the surveys or the evaluations are completed. Additional discussion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
That motion carries. Next, we have the organizational structure regarding the committee structure. So, Mr. Scott, you're going to have to help me with this because you and I didn't talk about how this process is going to work. So, we have to have an organizational meeting. So, we have to call that, and then we take nominations for each of the positions, and each of those positions then are voted on, correct?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, to refresh, I guess, in the resolution that the council just approved with several changes a few moments ago, the council decided to appoint, I'll call them subject matter chairpersons, and the subject matters correspond to the subject matters of the city council's former subcommittees when you had that structure. And again, they're finance, public works, public safety, labor relations, and community development. You don't need a separate meeting or to do anything separate. What the resolution stated was that the chairpersons would be appointed by the council from among the council membership. That's all it said. So how the council goes about that is up to you. Typically, it's either by nomination and then vote, or by motion and second. Any of those are viable approaches. At some point, you need an action that the council votes on to appoint the 4 chairpersons. And you can consider whatever criteria are important to the council in making that making those decisions.
Okay. So the first position would be the chairperson for Public Works, Public Safety. Remember, Fagerly.
I nominate Mr. Christensen.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to nominate Councilmember, sorry, I'm doing this wrong. Are there any other nominations for the position of Public Works, Public Safety? Any other nominations for the position of Public Works, Public Safety? Seeing and hearing none, I'll close the nominations. Would you like to cast a white ballot?
We have a motion to do it.
Would someone like to introduce a motion to cast a white ballot, or do you want to take a roll call?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to take a white ballot for the position of Public Works, Public Safety. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Next, Finance.
Mr. Mayor, I would nominate Counselor Nelson to be our Finance Chair.
Are there any other nominations for Finance?
I'm going to nominate Councilman Plowman. He said he would do it.
Any other nominations for Finance? Seeing and hearing none, we're going to have to have a ballot, Ms. Thompson, for Plowman and Nelson. Would you like to prepare the ballots?
We really have to do.
We have paper. Use a piece.
We can use the paper in front of us, right? Just go ahead and vote. The two people are Plowman and Nelson for the position of Finance.
And Mr. Mayor, if I can interrupt, just so everyone understands, since the open meeting law doesn't allow there to be secret ballots, you can do it this way. You just have to initial each ballot so it can be determined who voted for who, should anyone ask.
Correct, and then those have to be made available to the press, and they will be after the vote tonight. I believe we make those available immediately after, correct?
You certainly can do that, yep.
Like we're at the Emmys.
Mayor and Council, we have 6 votes for Councilmember Nelson, 1 vote for Plowman.
That motion passes. So Nelson will be the chair for Finance. Community Development.
Mr. Mayor, I would nominate Counselor Fagerly to be the Chair of Community Development.
Second.
Anybody else for Community Development?
Nominate Andrew Plowman. Isn't that the one he wanted to do?
I said that earlier. That's what he sent into the administrator, so.
Second.
Okay, the nominations cease. Prepare your ballots and hand them to the city clerk.
Not speaking.
We have 6 votes for Councilmember Fagerly, 1 vote for Plowman.
Councilmember Fagerly will be our representative for Community Development. Next, Labor.
I nominate Councilperson Muskie.
Second.
Anybody else for Labor? Anybody else nominate for Labor? Seeing and hearing none?
Make a motion to cast a white ballot?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to cast a white ballot for Councilmember Metzke. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes. So our committee organizational structure will be Public Works, Public Safety, Councilmember Christensen. Finance, Councilmember Nelson. Community Development, Councilmember Fagerly. Labor, Councilmember Metzke. That will be our organizational structure, and if we can have that added to the council packets for the next meeting, that would be great. Again, when we prepare those packets, you will work with the respective staff members on that item and get those forwarded to the council packet agenda. The packet the meeting is run by the mayor, so the mayor is the one that approves the agenda that goes in front of the council. And so I don't anticipate that being a problem, but the council meeting is the mayor's meeting. So the work session will then be in the hands of the council members, but by resolution, the mayor would open the meeting and then hand it off to those respective council members, is how I see it. If somebody sees it different than that, let me know between now and the next meeting. But I'll basically open the meeting, turn it over to those respective chairs, and then I will, they will take and tabulate any votes that happen, if there are votes, as suggested this evening, and those recommendations would move, and then I would simply close the meeting at the conclusion. The discussion would be handled by those 4 chairs. Additional discussion about that. That's how I understand the process. I want to just make sure we all understand what's going on. Okay, city administrator comments. Mr. Holland.
2 reminders and then 1 remark. You all should have received the schedule for the governor's fishing opener this week, which is plenty of activities. And the mayor and I talked about that earlier. Him and I are going to try to attend as much as we can and participate and volunteer as needed. Tomorrow night, we will have our joint meeting here at 4 o'clock. So it's 4 o'clock tomorrow. No sandwiches.
Is that downstairs, or where are we meeting?
I believe it's in this room here, Mayor. If I remember Janelle's not here, but I believe it's in this room. No, it can't be in this room.
Can't be in this room.
It's downstairs. It's downstairs. I'm sorry. That doesn't make sense, does it? But it will be in this building. And lastly, I think some of you can relate to this. I kind of have a heavy heart today because over the weekend, Mayor Haney, who I worked with for 6 years in Chillicothe, passed away. He was 81 years old. He served 20 years on the council in Chillicothe. He served almost half of that as the mayor. He was the newspaper publisher for over 35 years. He announced the football and basketball games for over 30 years in that little community. He was one of the biggest cheerleaders that they had in that community, and him and I were really good friends. And I know he's going to be missed. I knew his family very well, and I have some family that's in the area that's going to attend his funeral tonight. They're having a mass for him, but his funeral is tomorrow. But I could not make it, but my prayers are with him tonight and his family, and I did want to mention that he's being honored a lot in the community for all that he did, and it was just a privilege, and I just wanted to say that publicly tonight, to work with him, and just as it is to work with you, because as you're committed to making this a better community, that's what he was doing his whole life. And so I know he's got a smile on his face tonight, but he had not been feeling well for the last year. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to publicly thank the owners of Good News Bookstore. As you've all heard, they are closing their business. It'll be a great loss for our community. I had a number of constituents call me in regards to that and wanted to just make the council aware of it. And anytime we lose a business within our community, it's a sad day. And of course, the struggles that the mall is going through with the closing now of Herberger's in that as well. So we have a lot of projects to work on as a council. Again, as the administrator had mentioned, reminding you all that you all signed up, with the exception of Councilmember Alvarado, to serve at the community picnic starting at 6:15 p.m. on Friday. And if you're unable to be there, please let Janelle know as quickly as possible. She will have your shirts for you. I believe they're supposed to be coming in today or tomorrow, I think is what I was told. And hopefully she'll get us a phone call that they're ready to get picked up. So a lot of good events happening here in the community. Again, Rockin' Robin's Fishing Edition is on Friday night as well. And we're planning on serving 3,000 people, so it's going to take all of us to roll our sleeves up and get the job done. So, and again, the council should be there at 6:15. They need help at 4:30, but the initial email that went out that everybody agreed to was to be there at 6:15, with the exception of Councilmember Alvarado. That, we'll start with Councilmember Christensen.
Make sure you attend one of the many events of the fishing opener this week.
Councilmember Schwantes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to give a shout out to the 82 people who showed up at Robbins Island last Wednesday night. We had our first cleanup of the destination playground. I wasn't certain if I'd be cleaning by myself most of the night, and I was so incredibly surprised. And I would make a special note of the curlers. They had at least a dozen of their crew that was there. It was great fun, and everyone enjoyed it. People who came to play on the playground helped us, and in addition to those who came with the intention of helping with their buckets and everything. But I would also like to challenge those folks who came and had a good time to think about doing that in their own neighborhood parks. And, you know, this is a good time to spruce up our businesses and our homes, knowing that we've got an awful lot of folks coming for this weekend. So let's just take a look at our whereabouts and pick up that trash. Thank you.
Councilmember Alvarado.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just echo what's been said, but I was hoping that our speaker that does a broadcast on Rat Case for the Somalian community would mention the Governor's Fishing Opener. It's a great way to meet the community and be a part of the community. I cannot make the Governor's Fishing Opener because I have a very special event going on with my daughter graduating from a master's program, and we're going to be in attendance for that. And that just reminds me to say there's a lot of graduations coming up, both high school and college, and I think a lot of colleges are starting to graduate. So a shout out to them for a job well done, and I'm very excited to be a part of a community that has an educational facility that helps our young people to advance. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Osmus.
I don't think I have anything.
Councilmember Meske.
Well, congratulations, Councilmember Alvarado.
Thank you.
And my condolences, City Administrator Holland. You just elected me as labor relations, so I'm going to let you know that you are going to get a form to fill out the evaluation, and I want those back by Friday the 18th at 4 p.m. All right? That's the deadline. This is a college instructor. That's what's going to happen. So since I'm having to tabulate them, I need to have a few days to do that. So I want those in by Friday the 18th. You should receive those probably tomorrow. And I'm just curious, we had some speakers today talk about local option sales tax. Start thinking about deadlines for that and when we have to do those things. And I was curious when the 292 design plan is coming forward, because I haven't heard, and so I'd like to hear that before we start delving into some local option sales tax piece. But we didn't have any dialogue about it, but that is on my radar screen as well. So I don't know if we need to put them on the next work meeting as people suggested, but I mean, that needs to be something. I don't know what the timeline is. So I want to be cognizant that I was paying attention to our speakers, and that's something, if we're going to do it, we got to do it.
Right. The master plan for Robbins Island is coming to the next council meeting.
Yep.
So, and then James said he was going to come with the stuff for the holiday lights too. So, I don't know, do you have any idea when it's coming?
We have it tentatively scheduled for the 21st as well.
Oh.
292?
Okay.
Oh.
Right.
We're going to have all of those at the same night?
Well, I didn't know you were going to have the others. You just added those.
And we're going to do
we'll look at it, but right now we're loaded if we're going to do all
Holland,
those.
you were at the meeting where the date was set.
Pardon?
You were at the meeting where the date was set, that it was coming to the council on the 21st. You were in attendance at that meeting. We talked about it.
Anyway, well, what I say, we need to look at what we've got on the agenda.
Okay.
Okay. Councilmember Fagerly.
Just want to wish everyone good fishing, have fun, be safe, and happy Mother's Day, too.
That's an important part as well.
It is.
Exactly. Anything else to come before the order? Councilmember Nelson, I missed you.
Yes, you did. Was that intentional? No, just kidding. So I was going to ask the question too, if we were going to honor their request for them to come and bring information, because there is a deadline there, I know, for them too. And so I think we need to figure out how and when these things are going to happen. But I wanted to, for those of you who are going to come to the Rockin' Robins, the governor is scheduled to speak at 4:30. So you might want to be there if that's something that you would like to do with that. So he will be, that's his schedule. I'm guessing it'll be a little later than that. And third thing, I had the opportunity through my work to attend the appreciation dinner up in Spicer. And I wasn't able to help do cleanup up at Robbins Island, but their beautification committee up there is second to nothing. And I would really love for us to adopt some sort of beautification plan, your idea for communities and other parks. They work very hard at that, and they do a very good job. It's basically a volunteer thing that is supported by the city, and I would hope that we would look at coming up with some sort of plan for beautification. I think what's happening out at Robbins Island was amazing, and I would have loved to have been there and couldn't be there, but I'm hopeful that we will pick up on that. They had a great event. It was fun to experience the things that are going on up there in Kandiyohi County. I think we need to look at it. They are very supportive of our area and Convention and Visitors Bureau and lots of other things. So I'll quit with that.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Alvarado.
When's your bike ride?
May 18th.
May 18th. So don't forget that, because we don't have a meeting before then, right?
Correct.
So don't forget the mayor's bike ride on May 18th.
You need to sign up for that through the Convention and Visitors Bureau. Plan to see you there.
Anything else to come before the council? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Councilmember Osmus.
On that same note, I just wanted to say that the mayor's prayer breakfast was very well attended. It was a lovely event, and to thank the mayor for all the work he put into that. And the speaker did a great job. Speakers, it was a husband and a wife. I hope we can continue with that, because it's just it's a great event, and you leave feeling very uplifted and very hopeful and very positive about the community. And I just always enjoy it. It's a good job.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and second. We're adjourned.